Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another Gather to Grow session here on Twitter. My name is Duncan Masiwa. I'm the head of news for the agricultural publication Food from Zanzi. And of course, I'm standing in for my colleague Dawn Numdu. Tonight, we have an exciting topic, which is pasture lands and field crops. We know that velds remain the cheapest source of grazing, but to get the most out of it, there's a couple of things that you need to do. You need to do your homework, and we've got an expert with us tonight. I'll introduce him in a moment, who will be telling us more about this. What is pasture lands and field crops, and why is this so important for our agricultural enterprises? Tonight, I am joined by Patrick Rakau, who is a researcher at the Agricultural Research Council. I could not think of a much more suited person to be having this conversation with tonight. Patrick, briefly just tell us a bit about yourself. What is it that you do, and where exactly in the agricultural space do you fit in?
Thank you, Duncan. My name is Patrick Rakau. I'm originally from Limpopo. Did my university studies at the University of Limpopo. I'm currently working as a researcher, ARC, Agricultural Research Council, dealing with forage and planted pastures. Professionally, I'm a pasture scientist because that's my specialty, but I'm now busy with my PhD in crop science combined with breeding. In short, the holistic approach that I'm going to share with you is basically the experience that I got from my junior degree up and work experience and up to date.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I'm really excited to be having this conversation with you. You know, you are at the heart of agricultural research in the country. So I'm really excited to be having this conversation with you and share. Hopefully, those that are tuned in will benefit greatly from what it is that you have to share with us. But maybe let's start right at the beginning. What are pastures for those of us who are tuned in and may not be quite sure what exactly that is? What are pastures?
Pastures are planted pastures which can be defined as plants that are established to replace the existing vegetation with the aim to improve the production and quality of forage for livestock. In summary, is that we all know that the natural vegetation that God has given us, it's not enough for our livestock or whatever enterprise that we want to do because of seasons that we're experiencing, winter season, no rainfall. We have now global warming challenges. So planters pastures comes in to close that gap so that our farmers or our animals don't lose weight, because once they lose weight due to lack of quality forage, then the price will be affected. That is the reason why we planted pastures are established.
I'm glad you mentioned that because planting pastures is nothing new. We've been doing this for generations when it comes to agriculture. But it's important to know that how the agricultural space is changing, specifically looking at climate and what farmers should take in consideration with the changes in weather and how that affects planting pastures and field crops. So I'm happy that you mentioned that. My next question to you, Patrick, would be how do we best optimize this in our farming enterprise?
Agriculture is not one size fits all approach. It's specific to the environment or the type of enterprise that one deals with. So it's important that we bear in mind that planting pastures to optimize the production or the enterprise, one needs to understand what is it that you want to achieve. That's number one. What is it that you have? Remember, you cannot run a farm only with planted pastures. It's going to be very expensive and I don't think you will succeed. But you need to interlink with the natural vegetation. So there are reasons that one needs to know when to use planted pastures. I'll just give summary and then so that there are a lot of them, but I'll just give few. You need to improve the performance of the animal unit with planted pastures. You can also increase the carrying capacity of the farm, the profitability of the livestock enterprise. You can also increase the calving and lambing or kidding percentage. You can improve animal grades, those who are into meat, to increase animal production per hectare and the tempo of the animal production. You can also increase the chances of your animals to be conceived or to be pregnant, to provide early mating animals and flexibility of the animal enterprise. These are some of the reasons why we bring in pastures, because most of the activities or the maximum performance of our animals depend on nutrition. So if their nutrition is low or is low in quality, then their performance will be affected. The one that I already mentioned, the issue of becoming pregnant, the meat quality, the gaining weight, the milk production if you are into milk industry. So it's important that the planted pastures, they will assist us in maintaining whatever that one deals with, either milk, meat, or into small stock farming.
Definitely a lot of benefits when it comes to planting pastures. I want to get later into, selecting those different varieties, because I understand there's a lot of varieties when it comes to pasture crops and field crops. How do I make that decision to best choose the right variety to fit my conditions in terms of where I stay and where it is that I'm operating as a farmer? And maybe if I want to start planting pasture crops, what are the key questions that I, as a farmer, should be asking myself before I get started?
The first important question to answer, which cultivar to select, you need to understand your environment. Remember, these varieties, when we breed them based on their environment, in the specific environment. That's where they can perform to the maximum. So you need to understand the environment that you are in, which cultivars that perform better in that. Environment is a key. The second aspect is the purpose in which the pasture is required. Are you looking for pastures that close only winter shortage, or are you looking for the pasture that must sustain you the whole year or a certain season? Because we have different types and kinds of pastures that are bred for that specific location, specific purpose. For example, if you are into dairy, most of you listeners or farmers, in dairy, you'll find throughout the year it's green. So you ask yourself, for it's winter, but dairy farm, it's always green. It's always green because they plant perennials, example of ryegrass, that does well throughout the year. But in some instance, you'll find a certain farm is green only during winter. So there are specific cultivars that perform in that particular environmental condition. The third point is the type of animal to utilize that pasture. Cattle, we have small sheep, we have goat, we have game. So those kind of animals, you need to understand this type of cultivar or pasture that I'm one. Is it necessary for my animals? I'll give an example. If you deal with dairy requires cultivars that have high TNC, non-structural carbohydrates, for the high production of milk. So you can, which those cultivars are very expensive. So if you deal with then that's the way to go. But if you have small stock, you deal with sheep, for example, you can't plant that expensive cultivar, because now you are focusing on meat quality, meat production, and the gaining of weight. Then you will need cultivars that are high in CP or crude protein. So those are the things that one needs to know. The fourth point is the yield and the quality required from the pasture. I think I already mentioned that. The winter cereal.
It definitely sounds like there's a couple of things that farmers need to keep in mind. You mentioned climate change, the area of land available, the potential use, the type of livestock, and a couple of other things. So definitely valuable information that you are sharing. Well, Sobi asked, I hope that Sobi can hear us and that the audio is quite clear. Request to become a speaker, then of course we'll get an opportunity. The question from Tabs, Patrick, is, good day farmers, and thank you for another great opportunity to learn. Can I please find out which field crops or pastures I might need to grow if I want to create my own poultry feed? That's a question coming from Tab. So just to repeat there, which field crops or pastures I might need to grow if I want to create my own poultry feed? Patrick, what's your response?
With poultry feeding, it's a little bit tricky in this way. The feed that usually feed the poultry, we call it supplement. They mix it. So after, let's say, for example, I planted my oats, then you will take that oats because you see poultry, their digestive system is very small. So you will need to grind and mix with other, process it in a way that they will be able to feed. That's why I'm saying it's very challenging because it will need more of a balancing diet and nutritionist. But anything like oats, the same maize, all the cereals that can feed to poultry, but not as raw as you just harvested. The only thing that you can feed as raw nowadays, we call it hydroponics, whereby we put a lot of seeds like wheat, and then how do I put it? No soil, just water inside the jar-like structure. Then they will germinate, and then when they are still fresh, then you can take that a bale. It's a sort of a bale. Those of you who know hydroponics, maybe they will understand. Then you can feed it to the chickens. It's working, but it's something that you need to have a skill to produce. But any cereal you can feed to chickens, like traditional when I grew up with my grandmother, the corn. But if we are now talking about the enterprise where you need to get weight, so you need to have a balanced diet.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Hopefully that answers Tabs' question. Of course, Tabs, you can reach out to Patrick directly if it's a conversation that you would like to take further. He's, of course, an expert in this field from the Agricultural Research Council, so he'll definitely be able to, if not answer your question, point you to someone that will be able to perhaps. But Patrick, maybe just to come back to you, you mentioned earlier that there are a number of species or varieties available when it comes to field crops and pasture crops. How do I know which one to select? What are my options?
The options are many, but the species that one needs to select will be directed by what you are farming with. So I'll just give a number of species for the sake of time, but if the one needs to know further, they can still contact me. We have annuals. Annuals, this type of species, they complete their life cycle within a year. And then we have perennials, which they complete their life cycle in 2 years. And we have alternative perennials, which can take more than 3 years to 5 years. With annuals, we have the ones that does better in winter, which we call we call them a template species. Your cereals, your oats, your wheat, your triticale, and so forth. And there are those that does well in dryland, the ones that I just mentioned, the cereals. And there are the other ones that does well under irrigation, your ryegrass. And within that ryegrass, there are a lot of species, so I won't go into details. And with the perennials one, the same thing. You have the ones that perform well, maybe in winter, because most of the breeding program that we do as scientists is to close the gap that we experience during off-season. Off-season, it's winter and early spring, where there is no rainfall in most parts of the world. So we want cultivars that perform well there, so that natural vegetation in that stage, it's already in a dormant stage. You find everything is brown, it's no longer green. So plants went to a dormant stage. So we want to cover that gap so that our production is not affected. That's the reason why most of them breed for that purpose. But the other purposes, like the dairy, where you need everything high CP or TNC throughout the year. So then the third one, which is perennials, it's like legumes like lucerne. Most of farmers know lucerne. You can plant lucerne and then you can harvest it more than 4 years. And in the lucerne also, we have different dormancies. We have 1 up to 10. So 1 up to 7, it's a winter dormant. That means that those kind of cultivars, they are for grazing. I know when you talk about grazing with lucerne farmers, they are scared of bloating. So, but the reality is that with this, if they say the cultivar is 1 dormant up to 7, anything in between, if you plant it, for sure in winter you won't get any production. So we have high dormancy from 8 up to 10 to 11 if other breeders will produce. Those ones, therefore, so they will produce throughout the year. You will cut them. The production is very high and store them and give them when the need comes. So that's how usually they prefer to use Lucerne. And we have 12-phase cues. We have also cox food. So the problem with these terminologies and these cultivars that I realized in my experience of more than 10 years is that most of our farmers, they don't know, let me not say understand, they don't know these different cultivars in details to say this one will do that. Only commercial ones, they have that knowledge because they are working closely with seed companies. I tend to understand this because I'm evaluating for seed companies, even international companies, any varieties that comes to South Africa, evaluate them for agronomic purposes to see how they perform, so that anything that they sell to our farmers is regulated. That is one of my job that I'm doing currently at the ARC. So you'll find most of our emerging farmers not knowing, they just know there is a winter grass. They don't know whether it's oats, triticale, wheat, and what is the difference between annual, perennial, alternative perennial, which is a gap that I think ourselves and also the agricultural industry and the government need to tap into that, more especially in forage, and specifically in forage crops, because the other sectors for women consumption, I think everyone is knowledgeable with that and updated. But with the forages, it's a serious concern, and I think we need to, with this kind of platform, I'm happy that I can share this information so that one can understand when I buy this for what and how it's going to service me. Because I'll give an example. There was this other one farmer who went and buy annual ryegrass. Annual ryegrass, as I said, they reach flowering, they complete their life cycle in a year. So you plant them in March, and then by November, December, they're flowering. So with the lack of knowledge, the farmer went and buy, with the advice from people who don't understand, went and buy maybe 1 ton. Just imagine, because you'll find 125 kg bag of ryegrass seeds can cost you 5,000. Just imagine if you bought a 1 ton, then you went and plant around September without knowing. So immediately you plant September, October, when that seed germinate, automatically it will went to flower. So can you see how the farmer lost the preparation of the land, the money that he bought, that seed, transportation, everything, labor. And there's nothing you can do because that is the behavior of the cultivar. It flowers, it reaches flower when change of in condition or temperatures. So those are some of the small things that we need to make sure that our farmers are aware of, and then gradually will add more and more up until the level whereby they will understand.
Sure, Patrick. Definitely valuable information that you are sharing, and it just shows you the importance of choosing and selecting the correct pasture species, specifically considering where you're in which corner of the country you are farming, and also the type of that you intend to feed. It's important if you want to avoid any costs to your business. I'm wondering, how does climate change affect the choosing of the pasture species? Has that already started affecting the kinds of varieties that our farmers are choosing?
Definitely, Duncan. Climate change is affecting everyone in agricultural sector. I won't talk about other sectors. And even us in pasture scientists, we are affected because now, give an example. Let's say in the year 1994, for example, there was a cultivar that was bred for high production in between the temperature 28 to 30 degrees Celsius. So in Mpumalanga, for example. So that cultivar, now, if you plant it in Mpumalanga, now due to climate change, the temperatures in Mpumalanga, they range from 35 to 40. So even though that cultivar was doing well the time it was bred, because of the environmental conditions that were there by then, it will never do well now because the temperatures have increased due to global warming. So it's a challenge that we are dealing with now. Most of the project that we are leading now and we are doing at the ARC is to breed cultivars that are environmental friendly. I'm busy with the turf now, which is at M3 generation, so that we produce cultivars that are user-friendly and adapted to these conditions that we are having now and going forward, because the predictions are there. As scientists, you are aware that this temperature, they're not going to drop anytime soon. So we need to come up with the cultivars that can sustain us and our farmers maybe up until 2050. Before then, others will be coming in, and this is the baton, remember, the scent. Then others will be coming with the new terminology to come up with the cultivar that will suit those challenges that are there in that time, because we are not sure. So definitely global warming is affecting us, and we are lucky because I'll say we are lucky because our government and our stakeholders, private sector, they are funding research, more especially if you come with varieties or you come with solution or cultivars that are doing well using less water. You know, South Africa is a water scarce country. So if you come with a project that you are producing or you are breeding a cultivar that does well with high seed, with high protein, with high quality, with high herbage production, but utilizing less water, then you will get the funding, the water commission, you name them. So it's there, and we need collaborators, we need scientists to come on board. You cannot do this alone. We need to share ideas, we need to see which one can we address. But as a team, a country working together with other countries, then I think we'll get there. As the one who came before us, they did their work by producing the ones that we're talking about now that are no longer doing well. So it's our turn now to produce the ones that will do well now, and also going forward to the next generation.
Patrick, I must say it's great to know that there is development in the agricultural space, specifically looking at your field, which is pasture crops, that new species and new varieties are being introduced, and just taking into consideration how agriculture and the climatic conditions are changing. For those of you who just tuned in, tonight we are talking pasture lands and field crops. Patrick, so as a farmer, you've done your research, you understand your climatic conditions, you understand what livestock it is that you intend to feed. You have made a selection of which pasture species that you are going to explore. What's next? I would assume preparing the land. What advice or tips can you give us in terms of preparing the land? What are some of the key or important things that farmer needs to take into consideration?
Preparation of land is very key in establishing pastures, because one, the seeds is expensive. I just explained. Another typical example, farmers must not be shocked. A 25 kg of lucerne, it's 8,000. So just imagine if you bought 20 of them, you want to plant maybe 50 hectares, and they don't germinate. Let me come back to your question. Land preparation is key. You need to prepare the land in a way that you suppress weeds. Remember, planted pastures, these seeds, they are high in quality, but they always vulnerable at a starting point, as a germination and emerging stage. So if you don't prepare your land very well, the weeds can overcome the seedlings, your pastures. And at that stage, because they're vulnerable, they're still young, they're still depending on the nutrients from the seeds itself. They are not yet established leaves whereby they will start to photosynthesize on their own. So it's a very critical stage. That's why we make sure our lands are clean, weed-free. After making sure that there is no weed, we are creating a conducive environment for these precious seeds. As I just said, they're expensive. No one wants to play with money, not in this current condition that we are in. So once your soil is well prepared, you need to do soil analysis. Even though you know that you have information about your species, as you just said, Duncan, you need to have a soil tested by scientists in the lab, because we scientists were not prophets. In agriculture and research, we deal with the facts and numbers, and not just to say Patrick will come there and say, here you can plant, put nitrogen, put whatever. No, we need to have a tested result, quality result from the lab, which will indicate this soil lack either nitrogen or phosphorus or iron or zinc, then, or it's more of 1, 2, 3. So you need to make sure that you balance these nutrients in the soil, because your pasture will depend on the nutrients from the soil after it has emerged. I just explained that when it's still a seed, it depends on the food inside the embryo of the seed as an embryo. So once it's just to get out, it have leaves, then it needs to maintain itself through photosynthesis, which it will get food from the same soil. If your soil is not well balanced with nutrients, even though the seed is of high quality, it will never perform. So soil preparation is very key, soil analysis. And another important thing is to know your irrigation or rainfall, because, for example, when we deal with winter cereals, remember, we bred them for drought tolerant, but you cannot just plant them when you see your soil is just dust. So it's a logic. You need some little bit of moisture from previous rain or the last rain that you had. So you need to plan in a way that immediately after rain around, if you want to plant in March, if it rains in February, you must make sure that that last rain that comes as that particular location, because I cannot know, because as I said, this planning is specific to farm and location. So the moment your rain comes, you must make sure that that last rain comes when you have already prepared your land. Immediately, you put in the seeds. I'm talking about for dry land. So those are the things that to make it successful, you need to master. But if you deal with irrigated cultivars, then you don't have any problem, because you can prepare your land and you get your soil analysis, then you can plant and irrigate immediately. The fourth thing is to know the sowing rate. These aspects are important, because you don't want to lose. You don't want to put more seeds in one space, and then because it's expensive, or you don't want to put less in a space, so you need to follow the sowing rate. Every bag of a cultivar is written there, 30 kg seeds per hectare. Let's follow those recommendations.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for that. It definitely seems like there's a couple of things that farmers need to take into consideration when it comes to pasture crops and field crops. And I'm loving the valuable information that you are sharing. Patrick, my next question, what are some of the factors that lead to poor pasture conditions? I'm sure there's a couple of things that could potentially go wrong. What are those things that farmers need to look out for?
The things that farmers need to look out for basically is under soil preparation. Soil type, drainage, moisture holding capacity, fertility, and pH. Because that's why I said before you plant, you need to have a soil analysis, so that this kind of information is provided when you do soil analysis. You just have to mention in your application to say the soil type. I want to know the drainage, water holding capacity of this soil, fertility, pH, and so forth. Because this is very key, because once you put the seeds in the soil, you cannot take it out. So you will know there are some cultivars that they don't do well. I will give an example. We are currently breeding a lucerne that is tolerant to acid soil. Why? Because South African soils are acidic, and most of the regions or places, they cannot produce lucerne because of acidic soil. So now we are coming with the cultivar that will do well in acid, so that we can close that gap. So we were able to know that because of the soil analysis. But if you don't have soil analysis, you will just take that expensive seeds of lucerne, you put it in an acid soil, and that cultivar is not bred for that, nothing will happen. It will not germinate. Even if it will germinate, you will see some deficiencies, deficit, all sorts of things. And then farmers get frustrated to say, no, these guys are not selling us the right type of seeds. The important thing is that what you buy from seed companies and what your soil, because farm A soil is not the same as farm B soil, even if they are 1,000 meters apart, because that's the nature of the soil. You can't say I'll copy from my neighbor. My neighbor planted and everything went well without doing soil analysis. He just put nitrogen fertilizer. You find he was lucky because his soil is not acidic, but yours is acidic. Then we don't want those kind of copy and paste. Let's let our soils analyzed. That is very critical because everything that leads to the poor of the past is the soil, which includes soil type, drainage, moisture holding capacity, fertility, pH, and also the seeds, the type of the seed that you are buying. I know farmers like to save a lot. Let's buy certified seeds, farmers. I know it's expensive, but if you really want to make business or you want to be successful in farming, you need to invest in quality things. If you buy a certified seed, the germination is calculated, the purity, the performance. So you have all the information that if I follow these things, you will never go wrong. So, but if you don't buy certified seeds, you buy seeds from back doors or from your friend, you don't know that seeds have weeds, because some seeds you cannot differentiate the seeds of the weeds inside those seeds, the insects, the diseases. You're multiplying the diseases from previous harvest. So I urge farmers to go for certified seeds. As much as it's expensive, I think we can discuss that another day, that if it needs be, government can also come in and regulate, because they are very expensive, to be honest, more especially for our emerging farmer. But if you want to make it, you have to make sure that you compete with the best.
Yeah, no, definitely, Patrick. We know one thing in agriculture is that buying cheap is buying expensive in the long run. I'm so happy that you pointed that out. I have a couple of questions before I get to them. I think a lot of people are enjoying the session tonight, and especially the valuable information that, Patrick, that you are sharing tonight with us. I can imagine, like any other crop, pastures need careful attention to maintain production. How important is that? How do we manage our pastures?
We manage our pastures differently depending on which type of species is that. I'll give an example. The way you manage an annual, it will never be the same as the way you manage perennial, and also the same case to alternative perennial. The reason is simple. If you want perennial to carry you for 2 years, you have to take care of that perennial. You must not overgraze. You must make sure that every harvest or every grazing, you put in the fertilizer. I'll give you a typical example because I'm evaluating these cultivars, these varieties, or most of them. Every harvest that let's say I'm testing an annual. So I'll give you an example with a ryegrass. A ryegrass, for you to know that it reaches a stage where it needs to be grazed, it must have 3 leaves. We call it 3-leaf stage. And there is also a publication that I did with the grassroots. If the farmers want that information, they can get it. I can send it to you and we share with them later. But the important thing is that we have to understand the species that we are dealing with. Ryegrass, you have to know when it's 3-leaf stage, because naturally, let me say, biologically, if the 4th leaf comes out, the first one dies. So no matter how long you keep it, the production will never increase. It will keep on bringing the 4th one. The first one dies, it's left with 3. The 4th one comes, the second one dies, and so on. So you need to know this type of grass. When it's 3-leaf stage, you bring in your animals. Remember, it's an annual, and you graze it not overgrazing it, because it must take you the whole year, depending on when did you plant it. I gave an example to say if I plant in March, it will take me up until December, most of Western world. But Italian ryegrass, they're persistent. They can even go to January next year up to February, depending on the culture. So that is very important for us to know that after every cut, I'll talk about cut, but farmers, they know it's grazing. After each grazing, you need to top dress, in short. You need to fertilize your field. Why? Remember, initially I explained that whatever the crop is taking to grow is taken from the soil, whatever nutrients are there. So if it took these nutrients to produce three leaf stage, and you remove those 3 leaf stage, that means you remove those nutrients. They are no longer there in the soil. So you need to put back the nutrients. How do you do that? By fertilizing. Usually we top dress with most of the annuals, we top dress with nitrogen fertilizer. That doesn't mean you don't have to put LAN, like with Lucerne it's LAN. So it differs. But the important point to know, every grain fertilizer. Either you are using the crowd manure, because most of our farmers, this fertilizer is expensive. So make sure that you put after grazing. And you will be able to do that if you have camps to rest your cultivars or your field. Because if you continuous grazing, you are going to damage the plant canopy, and that cultivar will die, even though it's a perennial. Even it doesn't matter, it's a alternative perennial. So for you to sustain it, you must take care of it. It will take care of you. So it's very key. In my conclusion, the important thing is to know when to graze, and then after grazing, put in fertilizer or whatever nutrients that, depending on the result from, they will tell you this crop needs more of nitrogen. So every after cut, before it can turn yellow, you put the fertilizer. So I think I said mouthful.
We are enjoying your mouthful. Definitely valuable information that is being shared here tonight. Thank you so much, Patrick, for being able to basically carry this conversation. We had a couple of other speakers lined up to tune in, but unfortunately, due to various circumstances, they could not join. But I think thank you so much for being able to carry this conversation and share, the valuable information that you have. We've got a question from @T Mosimane, who says, "Good evening, farmers. The question is, are there cultivars that are Roundup ready, just like maize, sunflower, and soya, in order to control weeds?" I'm not sure if you got that question, but this is a question that's coming from @T Mosimane. Patrick?
Currently in forages, we don't have. What we have, it's a broad, let's say we control only broad leaves. We use usually, I don't know whether I can talk about the trend, but it's 2,4-D. It's a selective herbicide whereby you spray it to control broad leaves, because grasses don't have broad leaves. So we can use that one. But root crops like radish and turnips and so forth, we don't have any mechanism, any chemical to control. The only thing is to make sure that land preparation is done. If you do your land preparation well, make sure that it's clean. Then the time the weeds comes back, the bracari, the plants or the radish will overcome it. So that is the current situation. And I like the question, because with the turf that we are busy breeding now, we will try. Remember, it can take 10 years to produce a variety. It's not a small work. So it's one of the objectives that I'll be checking, trying to see if you can get a line that is Roundup resistant. But for now, I don't know of any in South Africa.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Patrick. I hope that answers your question, T Mosimane. Of course, you are more than welcome to connect with Patrick off this conversation, if that's something that you would like to do. A lot of engagement, Patrick, that is happening here in our DMs. A lot of farmers enjoying the session. We have a comment here from Letabo, and he's just saying that in relation to the soil analysis, it's also important to understand the nutritional requirements of a crop so that you don't over or under fertilize. Also mentions that it's also important to understand the antagonistic characteristics of the micro and macro elements in that analysis. A comment coming there from Letabo. Definitely an interesting conversation that is happening. Patrick, in closing, we have come to the end of the session. I'm going to give you an opportunity to maybe just share your contact details with our listeners, for those that who really want to get in touch with you and perhaps ask you questions offline. We had a request from Sobi saying that he's really enjoying the conversation and he would like to get in touch with you outside Twitter. So we'll definitely do that a bit later. But maybe just in closing, what is your advice to farmers when it comes to, especially when it comes to management?
Thanks to the comment from the listener. It's a really valuable comment, and it shows that we are moving to the right direction. My comment and my advice with farmers is that, specifically with planted pastures, you need to talk to your extension officers. I know some will say they are not responding. Let's use the resources that government is bringing to us. And I know the commercial ones, with the issue of understanding the characteristics, the behavior, and the types of cultivars, because you cannot buy something that you don't know, you don't understand, you don't know how it performs. And also the ARC is there. We are under government, and also we service farmers. Ask for information. We have open days whereby we bring farmers, we present, we share with them these case studies, and then we even show them the different seeds, because sometimes farmers, they don't even know a difference between an oats and a wheat and a rye. So they just say koron always. So it's important that our farmers are well informed, and we are here to do that. Utilize us, because I can talk these terminologies and it's very interesting, but if you cannot know them, must experience them. That's what I can say. Let's get our hand dirty, because I can talk the whole night with these planted pastures. But what I want to see changes. I want to make difference to the farming community. That one day I know this farmer before the presentation was at A level, and now is at T level after my presentation, with producing his own winter forage. So that's my advice, Duncan, that let's use whatever that we have at disposal to get as much as information to assist us. Don't just buy and say, no, I'll just plant and see. No, information is out there. The ARCs, we are all over the country. Go to our offices, even if they are not doing with pasture. We have one CEO, we are one manager. So you must tell them, I want Patrick Rakau. And then they say it's not working here. You must tell them, check in your emails. I want this, check his email. You will get everything. So let's utilize those, and let's tell our extension officers also this information to say, please contact us with ARC. I want to know about 1, 2, 3. It's not only in planted pastures. ARC, any discipline that you can think of, anything, even the poultry, if you are dealing with poultry, piggery, you name them, vegetables, everything, Duncan, is there. It's just that our farmers need to know where to go and get that information. But I think with this platform, just want to thank the Food from Zanzi for bringing this to what we want, because most of the time as research, we're always busy at the lab or in the field. Then we produce these good things, but they don't reach our farmers, because ours mostly is to write scientific papers and publish and at a higher level. But we are leaving our farmers down without any knowledge. So we are here, and then when we publish these popular articles, let's talk to us, Duncan. We share with you. Maybe you are aware I published one with you in 2021 for Reddish. So let's use this platform. Let's share information with our farmers. That makes me to sleep and wake up and do research when I see farmers happy and they change their lives and they become entrepreneurs.
No, thank you so much, Patrick. And I couldn't agree with you more. There's definitely a need to take these high-level scientific reports and research papers and bringing it across to farmers in various corners of the countries in a more palatable form. And that is exactly why we as Food for Mzansi are here and why we host these conversations to bring researchers and farmers closer together and host them under one room. Definitely won't be the last time that we have a chat with you or the ARC. Food for Mzansi will be publishing an article based on tonight's conversation on Food for Mzansi. So if you did tune in much later into the conversation, the information will be available at a later stage. And of course, you can look out for that on our platform on www.foodformzansi.co.za. We had Solomon Bartlett saying that, hi, me too. I'm enjoying the conversation. Thank you so much for that. Patrick, where can people get a hold of you? Is there an email address or contact detail that you're willing to share for those of us who would like to just reach out to you and get more information, perhaps?
My email address is Rakau, P for Patrick, Rakau, my surname, P for Patrick @arc.agri.za. And my cell phone number is 073-690-3795. Let's talk during the working hours, farmers, on WhatsApp. I'm not that active on Twitter. I'm only active on Twitter during congresses and this kind of platform. So I don't encourage if there is those who are active in Twitter, they can maybe, if they have a question, they can call and email. That's where I'm very active.
Most definitely. Please do not bother Patrick in the middle of the night. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into tonight's session. I think there's definitely a lot that we need to take into consideration when it comes to field crops and pasture lands. And I think Patrick beautifully outlined some of the important things that, as farmers, we need to take into consideration. Next week, we do this again with a different topic and different experts. Be sure to stay tuned to our social media feed to find out what we are discussing next week. From me, Patrick, and the rest of Team Food for Mzansi, have a beautiful evening.